the book of Luminous, book of Job. Chapter 36, verse 21. And now men see not the light which is bright in the skies, but the wind passeth and cleanseth them. This verse speaks about the light that is present but not always visible to men. The wind passing and cleansing can be seen as a metaphor for divine intervention or natural processes that reveal the hidden light.
The degrees in the perfection of men vary according to these distinctions. Concerning those who never beheld the light even for one day, but walk in continual darkness, it is written, "They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness." Psalm 82, verse 5. Truth, in spite of all its powerful manifestations, is completely withheld from them, and the following words of Scripture may be applied to them. And now men see not the light which is bright in the skies. Job 37, verse 21. They are the multitude of ordinary men. There is no need to notice them in this treatise.
Psalms, chapter 18. He made darkness his screen. Dark thunderheads, dense clouds of the sky were his pavilion round about him. Psalms. Chapter 92. Dense clouds are around him. Righteousness and justice are the base of his throne. Psalms, chapter 139. Darkness is not dark for you. Night is as light as day. Darkness and light are the same.
A third verse comes and reconciles the two. It is written in Psalm 139, verse 12. Even darkness is not dark to you. Night shines like day. Light and darkness are the same. But, this is not a third verse, it is a fourth one, and this really needs to be explained.
In the Guide for the Perplexed second part, chapter 30 is implying something very interesting. We must further consider that the term Eres is a homonym and is used in a general and a particular sense. It has a more general signification when used of everything within the sphere of the moon, i.e., of all the four elements, and is used in particular of one of them, of the lowest, viz. And earth. This is evident from the passage. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the surface of the deep, and the wind of God moved upon the face of the waters. The term earth mentioned here and in the first verse includes all the four elements, whilst further on it is said, "And God called the dry land earth." Genesis 1-10.
An example of the first class of prophetic figures is to be found in Genesis. And behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it. Genesis 28:12. The word ladder refers to one idea set up on the earth to another, and the top of it reached to heaven to a third, angels of God to a fourth, ascending to a fifth, descending to a sixth. The Lord stood above it, verse 13, to a seventh. Every word in this figure introduces a fresh element into the idea represented by the figure.
Luminous, brightness, wisdom and virtues, shining teachers of wisdom, staring, receiving wisdom, glaring, comprehending the required fields that he is capable of, dazzling, obtaining of, through perfection with the virtues and actions, blinding. Those thoughts cannot be thought or revealed to himself. They appear and disappear. The only way, you philosopher, open teaching them all true contradictions. There are 7 causes of inconsistencies and contradictions.
As to the number 4, it is strange and demands our attention. In Midrash Tanhuma, the following passage occurs. How many steps were in Jacob's ladder? 4. The question refers to the verse, "And behold a ladder set upon the earth," etc. Genesis 28:12. In all the Midrashim, it is stated that there were 4 hosts of angels. This statement is frequently repeated. Some read in the above passage, "How many steps were in the ladder?" 7. That's a clue of combining arithmetic, mathematics, and geometry with the wisdom of combining them from letters and numbers to names. Before 3, the first monolithic number is 3. On the second of the first dualithic numbers is 4.
Rabbi Berachia said, "It is written, Genesis 1:2, the earth was chaos, tohu, and desolation, bohu. What is the meaning of the word was in this verse? This indicates that the chaos existed previously and already was. What is chaos, tohu? Something that confounds taha people. What is desolation, bohu? It is something that has substance. This is the reason that it is called bohu, that is, bohu. It is in it. Terra autemera tinanis et vacua et tenebrae super facem abyssi et spiritus dei ferebatur super aquas. The Guide for the Perplexed, Chapter 17, Part 1. Ancient philosophers and scholars of other nations were likewise wont to treat of the Principia Rerum obscurely and to use figurative language in discussing such subjects. Thus Plato and his predecessors called substance the female and form the male. You are aware that the principia of all existing transient things are three, viz. Substance, form, and absence of a particular form. The last named principle is always inherent in the substance, for otherwise the substance would be incapable of receiving a new form. And it is from this point of view that absence of a particular form is included among the principia. As soon then as a substance has received a certain form, the privation of that form, namely, of that which has just been received, has ceased and is replaced by the privation of another form. And so on with all possible forms, as is explained in treatises on natural philosophy.
Those are very deep philosophical issues that we're going to investigate. The philosophical problem and understanding the issues will fit for the second section. Chapter 72. There are 12 propositions common to all mutakalimim, however different their individual opinions and methods may be. The mutakalimim require them in order to establish their views on the four principles. I shall first enumerate these propositions and then discuss each separately, together with the inferences which may be drawn from it. Proposition 1. All things are composed of atoms. Proposition 2. There is a vacuum. Proposition 3. Time is composed of time atoms. Proposition 4. Substance cannot exist without numerous accidents. Proposition 5. Each atom is completely furnished with the accidents which I will describe and cannot exist without them. Proposition 6. Accidents do not continue in existence during two time atoms. Proposition 7. Both positive and negative properties have a real existence and are accidents which owe their existence to some causa efficiens. Proposition 8. All existing things, that is, all creatures, consist of substance and of accidents, and the physical form of a thing is likewise an accident. Proposition 9. No accident can form the substratum for another accident. Proposition 10. The test for the possibility of an imagined object does not consist in its conformity with the existing laws of nature. Proposition 11. The idea of the infinite is equally inadmissible, whether the infinite be actual, potential, or accidental. That is, there is no difference whether the infinite be formed by a number of coexisting things or by a series of things, of which one part comes into existence when another has ceased to exist, in which case it is called accidental infinite. In both cases, the infinite is rejected by the mutakalimim as fallacious. Proposition 12. The senses mislead and are in many cases inefficient.
Note, O reader, that if you know the nature of the soul and its properties, and if you have a correct notion of everything which concerns the soul, you will observe that most animals possess imagination. As to the higher class of animals, that is, those which have a heart, it is obvious that they have imagination. Man's distinction does not consist in the possession of imagination, and the action of imagination is not the same as the action of the intellect, but the reverse of it. For the intellect analyses and divides the component parts of things. It forms abstract ideas of them, represents them in their true form, as well as in their causal relations, derives from one object a great many facts, which, for the intellect, totally differ from each other, just as two human individuals appear different to the imagination. It distinguishes that which is the property of the genus from that which is peculiar to the individual, and no proof is correct unless founded on the former. The intellect further determines whether certain qualities of a thing are essential or non-essential. Imagination has none of these functions. It only perceives the individual, the compound in that aggregate condition in which it presents itself to the senses. or it combines things which exist separately, joins some of them together, and represents them all as one body or as a force of the body. Hence it is that some imagine a man with a horse's head, with wings, etc. This is called a fiction, a phantasm. It is a thing to which nothing in the actual world corresponds. Nor can imagination in any way obtain a purely immaterial image of an object, however abstract the form of the image may be. Imagination yields therefore no test for the reality of a thing. The proofs of all these doctrines must be based on the well-known nature of the existing things, as perceived by the senses and the intellect.
Having thus discussed the arguments, we shall now proceed to consider the propositions of the philosophers and their arguments for the existence of God, His unity, and His incorporeality. And we shall for the present assume the eternity of the universe without finally accepting it. Next to this, we shall develop our own method, which is the result of deep study, in demonstrating these three principles, and we shall then examine the theory of the eternity of the universe as assumed by the philosophers.
Notice this. This is an explanation on the first section of what's the Book of Luminous. The conclusion that we're going to draw is a threefold possibility, devour determining the contradiction of those two verses, and it will explain the first section, just like what you have mentioned in the 17th chapter. It is the absence. It's coming out of the two methods. Then you must conclude that there is a special quality in humans, preparing them for the second perfectionism of man, delivering divine knowledge abilities from a way well distinguished. As mentioned in the third verse, Psalm 139:12, even darkness is not dark to you. Night shines like day. Light and darkness are the same, as we're going to see in the next sections of the Book of Loneliness. 10 minutes video of philosophy scholars, photos of the profiles of the sages of the Golden Age and Renaissance, scholars of Thomas Aquinas, Maimonides Maimon, Kabbalistic Christians of Kabbalah, Ibn Rushd al-Farabi, Dante, Akgori, Dante's Divine Comedy, Dante's Hell, Michelangelo's paintings, Sistine chapels, and many more of the culture that are neatly disgraceful. Since Galileo Galilean in Ptolemaios and astronomy of the Indian Buddha, Confucius Vitruvius, and his architecture from an analysis of ancient construction with the golden ratio of human body parts, with Macaulay in the background of Spinoza, and ingenious philosophers of what can be considered their masterpiece.